Alex Patt, what's up, man? It's been since last year, I feel like. So, how you doing? What's going on?
Hey man, how's it going? I'm doing good. Thanks for having me back again. I know we've been in talks about doing this for a while. Yeah, I mean, the last time I talked to you, it was really cold out. I think baseball was in a lockout. I don't know if it was official at the
Yeah,
time yet or not. It's been a while,
that's
but
right.
yeah,
That's right.
it's much warmer. Weather's better. I'm at least enjoying that. I'm not enjoying the baseball quite as much, but hey, everything else is going pretty good, right? So I can't complain
Yeah.
about much other things except I guess I really can't complain much about the Cubs because I didn't have many expectations, but I'm going to complain about them anyway. So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's right. We did talk in December. I think the lockout had just begun or it
Hmm.
was about to begin. I know they had signed Stroman at that point
Hmm.
because I remember we were live and I tagged him later, and I know he saw at least a second of it. Probably didn't watch the whole thing, but I know he saw it because he gave a little clap or thumbs up. Anyway, I know he saw it. I know it was in December, but yeah, it's funny. The Cubs suck, and we all knew that was going to be the case, but it's just downright, Cap had he does like these recaps on YouTube, and I commented today. I was like, he was like, I hope you're as pissed off as I am, and I was just like, I'm just apathetic. I mean, like, it's hard. I don't care about watching this team. I barely have their games on these days. I check the score every day. I keep up with what's going on, but I'm not watching them. I think I had them on purpose. It wasn't that long ago. It was who were they oh, Pittsburgh, I think, when they had, like, a grand slam. Contreras had the grand slam in the 1st inning or things like that, but I used to think I was a diehard fan, but now I'm like, "Well, maybe I'm not a diehard fan in the sense that I'm watching every game," because to me, it's just boring and sucks to watch really crappy teams, even if it's your team, and so I'm like, I'm still invested, I'm still checking in, but I also feel the other side of it where I'm just so annoyed with the way the team is right now. Not so much the team, but like the ownership, like that aspect of things. It's like they don't deserve my attention to watch them anyway. Like I don't care.
Well, look, I can tell you this, knowing a lot of Cub fans, talking to a lot of Cubs fans, just seeing what they have to say, and just looking at the attendance itself, you're not the only one who's apathetic towards the team this year. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the games at home. Look how many empty seats there are. And look, they're not going to be Oakland A's bad in terms of attendance. I mean, look at Great American Ballpark against the Reds
Hmm.
this past series. It's never going to be that bad at Wrigley Field, but I mean, I'll tell you, even when I was a kid, heck, I'll go back to 2006 when I was in 6th grade. Let's look at the
Yeah.
circumstances that year. They lost 96 games that year. The White Sox were the defending world champs. But you know what? They still drew 3 million fans there. And you know what? That was in a pre World Series era time. And they were just the lovable losers back then. And they brought their loyal fans no matter what. Now that we had a
Yeah.
taste of winning, now that they were supposed to change the culture, the way they think, the way they approach things, we don't accept losing anymore. And especially since the ticket prices and just the expenses of everything go up and up and up. And I'll tell you this right now. It doesn't help that the economic state of the world is where it is. I mean, listen, things are much more expensive now. Gas is more expensive, groceries more expensive. It's hard to splurge on things. That includes ball
Yeah.
games, especially here in
Yeah.
Chicago when everything is much more expensive than most other markets. So, simply people aren't going to invest money into a subpar product, in a product that we knew no matter what wasn't going to be a contender this year. And I support a transition. I support a mass retool. I supported
Yeah.
getting the prospects and growing from within. But if you're not going to put as big an effort into making at least the team on the field watchable, then I don't blame people for not wanting to watch. They made moves, okay? They made moves. They got Suzuki, they got Stroman, they got a few other guys. It's not to say that they didn't spend, it's that they didn't do enough. And you could say, well, what's enough? You're the Chicago Cubs. You're the third or the fourth most profitable franchise in all of baseball. You're not the Oakland Athletics. You're not even
Yeah.
the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, you compare the resources the Milwaukee Brewers have revenue wise versus the Cubs. It shouldn't even be a debate who's better. It's the Cubs are
Yeah.
way up, and yet they say building the next great Cub team, make more effort to at least make them respectable. Well, I'm fine with the transition period, but You should never be 100 losses bad. And this team is potentially
Yeah.
on that route. You shouldn't be that bad.
Like the Yankees, they didn't always make the playoffs. Their streak ended a few years ago, and they still had winning seasons. Like they haven't had. I mean, not that anybody is saying like, "Oh, cool, we won 84 games" or whatever, but you know what I'm saying. The Cubs are going to be well under 500 again this year. That shouldn't happen. Like you said, transitions happen. I mean, I know the Red Sox are kind of a weird example, but they're obviously a team that would win the World Series and then almost like tear it down, be awful, but then they would
For
fix
like
it and
one
be right
year.
back there. Right, right. And that's happened like a couple of times. But yeah, I mean, the Cubs should not be transitions can happen, but it shouldn't have gone the way it did, obviously. And where, where it is now is, hindsight's 2020. But I don't know. It's just annoying because Ricketts, I mean, can you imagine being the owner of the Cubs, the team that wins the World Series under your watch, and then almost as soon as it happens, you just throw away all that goodwill?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think it's if you would have told me in 2016 that in less than a decade we would see levels of apathy that millennial Cubs fans never saw, like going back to like the early 80s and late 1970s. If you would have told me we would have seen that level of apathy less than 10 years removed from winning the 2016 World Series, I would have
Yeah.
thought, no way. No way. Because one, I never
I
thought we'd
mean,
be that bad. And two, you just think that after a World Series, we'd be a lot calmer. But our expectations, rightfully so, changed.
and yeah, it's just nuts. So it's just yeah, I don't care about the team on the field this year. Like, yeah, I still check the score every day. I want whatever success I guess can happen, but I'm also like, well, you may as well be bad and try to get one of the top draft picks. I know there's a lottery, but the worst team is still going to have better odds than not. So, I'm not saying lose games on purpose, but I'm also like, well, who cares either way? But yeah, it's just whatever. It is what it is, but the good news is the minor leagues look pretty good. Myrtle
Yes.
Beach is trying to win their like 11th in a row right now over Augusta. Uh, Myrtle Beach has won 10 in a row. Pete Crow Armstrong. I talked with Greg Huss, of Northside Bound, Cubs
Mm-hmm.
Insider, Growing Cubs Pod recently, and at least the minor leagues are fun.
Yes.
Caleb Killian should be coming up soon. He might be coming up soon. I know Ross was kind of shooting those rumors down, but who knows? But whatever. There's like a bunch of exciting talent, which is at least it's kind of like the glass half full approach because we may see these guys in 2 years. We might see one or two this year. We might see them next year. And you hope that a lot of them really work out and pan out and maybe even pan out better than what this last core ended up being. Because, yes, the last core was great individually and, of course, collectively for at least 1 year and beyond that. Because, over a 3 year stretch, they were a really good team, at least 3 years. 3 years, you can go if you want to go into 18 and all that. But um, you know, hopefully the next core ends up being obviously very productive and solid. Uh it's hard to I mean, yeah, I feel like the 16 Cubs, I feel like that group should have won maybe one more than one World Series. I know it's hard to say like, yeah, they should have won two. At least got
Got
there
back.
again or
Yeah.
something
Won
like
another
that.
pennant.
But yeah, so, look what the Dodgers have done and the Phillies, the Royals, they had back-to-back years. They didn't win both, but they at least got there. And there are times, yeah, at least the minor leagues are kind of fun right now. That's kind of where you can hang your hat on it. Uh, like I said, Myrtle Beach and all these different teams. I haven't checked lately, but when I was talking with Greg about, I think 2 weeks ago, all the minor league teams were above 500 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's kind of whatever with the minor leagues because it's mainly about developing players and players are going to shift and move around, but still, that's like a positive trend there. So,
Absolutely.
but I will say this too. I see kind of both sides of like the Patrick Wisdom, Frank Schwindel side of things because people will be like, well, who cares? They're not going to be part of this future. The team sucks, but at least they are kind of making it fun at least a little bit. They're producing and doing what they can. I feel like either one of those guys, I mean, sure, they probably won't be on the Cubs when the Cubs are ready to contend again, but they could probably be a piece for a contending team and help them or whatever. I mean, at least they're doing their part, trying to do their part. obviously Stroman and Suzuki and like these names that you mentioned. But even if guys aren't going to be there in 2 years, at least they're like a small footnote of this bad era, right? Or this bad small, I guess you could say bad era.
Yeah,
The team that
yeah,
they are right now.
yeah.
But what'll go down as this crappy era between like basically 2021 and I don't know, 23 or who whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of this roster, and I mean, it's honestly a rebuilding roster. I mean, you have guys that were career
Yeah.
minor leaguers. You have a few young guys that are potentially future pieces, whether it's Horner or Madrigal or Steele or Keegan Thompson. And then, you got your veterans that are going to be dealt away at the deadline. And, those are the kind of guys where, I mean, the thing is that Contreras being the big candidate to get traded to get value is obviously one of the big talking points. And maybe Kyle Hendricks, a guy like him, gets traded. But most of the other veterans that are on the team, you think, okay, really the gold mine right now is David Robertson in terms of trade bait because everyone can use an elite
Yeah.
reliever. And David Robertson has been around for obviously a very long time. He knows what it's like pitching in big games. So that's going to be a big piece. And then it's like, Jonathan VR, that's not going to gar you much. Angelton Simmons, and it's those kind of guys are just they're going to be either dealt away for scraps or just going to be roster fillers. But I mean,
Yeah.
really going back to the minor leagues, that's what gives me a lot of hope. And I think Cubs fans should understand that it's really important for this franchise to not only acquire assets but develop them properly because they did such a poor job of that after the Theo core. Once Bryant,
Yeah.
Schwarber, Baez were all up. The development just it wasn't working at all. It wasn't producing sustainable major league talent, whether it was on the mound or in the field or in the batter's box. It just wasn't happening. So I feel good about Jed Hoyer's philosophy in terms of who he brought in to help recreate the infrastructure of the organization, the approach of how they're doing it, who they've acquired, and looking at these guys. Christian Hernandez, James Triantos, Brennan Davis, Reggie Preciado, Owen Casey, DJ Hers, Caleb Killian, Jordan Wicks. All these guys are they're all guys we should be paying close attention.
Alcantara. Yeah.
Kevin Alcantara, who came in the Rizzo trade, watch out for him too. These are all guys we should be keeping an eye on, and we do have to understand that that is an insanely important part of this next phase. I mean, really, that I'm very pleased with. The only thing I'm just not
Yeah.
pleased with is the fact that you didn't make more of an effort to at least make this team on the field more respectable. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to hammer this point again. You can be a non contender without being tanking bad. Winning
Yeah.
late 70s, or I should say upper 70s wins, I think would be very acceptable for this team. But right now, it looks like they're losing 100 games. That's 2012 tank bad. There is zero reason to tank. The 2012 Cubs, they had every reason to tank. The cupboard was bare. Theo had to strip everything down and rebuild from the ground up. That called for tanking. This does not call for tanking. We should not be tanking. The Chicago Cubs, after Theo Epstein, should never, ever in the rest of the history of this franchise be in that position.
Yeah, I mean, when you say the history of the franchise, I was thinking the rest of eternity.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Like,
that's
yeah,
basically what I mean. Yeah,
basically,
exactly.
basically, yeah, yeah. I mean, you have Theo Epstein. He comes in, he makes it. I mean, sure, he wasn't perfect. He had his faults, or there were things that obviously didn't pan out the way you would have hoped.
He
But
built it
obviously, he
fine. It
did
was the
his job.
sustaining that was the problem.
Yeah, this is and that's always been kind of, I think, his thing
He's even admitted
because
it.
sure, you can hope and wish that what happened in the past was a little bit longer and worked out better, but it is what it is now.
It could have been a complete
But at
failure. We
least,
got a championship out of it.
yeah. Oh, I mean, they could have lost it at game 7 and
Yeah,
then nothing, you know. So yeah, but and this is on the day of the 20-5 loss to the Reds.
yeah,
So of
yeah.
course, if they had won this series against a really bad team, and maybe they beat the Reds 20-5, we're still saying this same stuff. Maybe not today, but we're still thinking it when they lose their next 3 series. But it just happens to be the same day that that happens, and it's just kind of like it's hard to watch. It's hard to care about watching this team. Like I see so many people on social media watching it every game, and I'm just like power to you because it's like, I mean, sure, I could turn them on, but I'm like, I don't want to. Like, who cares?
I mean, I watch a lot of the games when I can. I can't watch all of them. Just whether it's because I'm busy, or there are just some games I don't watch. Like I don't watch the Cubs White Sox games. I don't watch those games, especially the last few years, because the Sox have kicked our ass, and I just don't want to. I just don't want to see it. This
I
weekend, I have
just
no desire to watch the Cubs Sox series.
I hope the Cubs win both those games just because the White Sox haven't been impressive at all. And
Don't count
I
on it.
just think it's funny that the White Sox are roughly a 500. Maybe they're like a game over or
I
whatever.
think they're
But
21 and 20 ish around there.
yeah, I think I know they won last night. I think I'm gonna check real fast. Right now they're 22 and 21.
22 and 21. There
So
you go.
in fact, both teams or no, they are playing tonight. So Thursday night. So the Cubs are off until Saturday night against the White Sox, which is weird that they have an off day tomorrow. But anyways, whatever. It's cool. It's cool. The Sox are already the Crosstown Cup champs because if they tie this year, it goes back to when they won last year.
Right.
Which of course no one cares about that, and the
No.
White Sox fan would be the one to care. So congrats to your championship. But that's probably the only one they're going to win this year. But anyway,
Wow,
I
you
don't know.
are in full shit talk mode. I like it. That's funny.
I feel like I mean honestly, I will say the Braves proved it last year. You could be horrible or not horrible. You could be iffy, 500, under 500, and get hot when it
And that's
matters.
why
The White Sox.
I still think the White Sox can do that. They could do what the Braves
I mean,
did.
sure they can. They'll probably win the Central,
Yeah,
but I
absolutely.
don't think I don't think they're going to go anywhere in the playoffs if they get there. I don't see it. They have talent. They could prove it. Like prove me wrong because I don't see it
Well,
happening.
they have to earn that. Yes, I mean when you think about it, they've made the postseason the past 2 years and they haven't won any series yet. They've got the talent to do it. I think they got the drive to do it. They just got to prove they have to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose in the first round again this year. I also wouldn't be
Oh,
surprised if
yeah.
they win the World Series. I could see either or happening with them.
I guess the only reason I wouldn't be surprised if they win it all is because those were their expectations going in, and we saw the Braves do that last year after a tough start. But right now, I would be surprised if they won it all. But that would also mean like, okay, they figured it out and played like they were supposed to.
They
So,
also got to stay
if they
healthy.
do, yeah. Well, Eloy's hurt all the time. I actually want to go back to the Cubs for a second. Do you wish that you had Chris Bryant on the team right now? How could you? The guy's injured again.
It's
He
not
has
looking
0
good.
home runs.
Negative F
Honestly,
war.
I mean, I know he's only played like a handful of games so far, but that's the other problem. He's only played a handful of games
Yep.
again. He's off. He's hurt like for the second or third time already. He already missed time, and then he had the back, and now he's on the IL again. He has not been the same guy since I go back to 2018 when he got hit in the head. I always will go back to that, even if that was the head, and even if it's other ailments. That just was when it all started that year. He was a solid player in 17. He was an MVP in 16. He's never been the same guy since 2017 season.
When you ask that question in bare context, like just having Chris Bryant on the team, sure, it would probably make you better. But in the context of how he's doing this year, the injuries that he keeps suffering, and the size of that contract, that's the big thing. I'm glad they didn't pay him all that money.
Well, and also think about this. If Caleb Killian becomes a piece, then that's a rotation piece that you don't get if you don't trade him to the
Right.
Giants. The Giants have neither. They're fine, I guess. I'm gonna shout out Jeff Young, who covers the Giants for Fansided around the Foghorn. He goes on the radio all the time. I talk to him all the time. He never thought the Giants were really going to keep Bryant long term.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like the Giants thought, yeah, nice player. We like him. We don't really necessarily care about trying to keep him or at least giving him maybe the money that he ultimately got from the Rockies. I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
know
think
what
the
I
Giants
don't
are
know.
going to pay him that.
I don't know that they were seriously ever thinking they would keep him or what, but they don't have either him or Caleb Killian right now.
No.
But and
And look at
so
the
that was part of
Mets.
their gamble.
Same thing.
Yeah, see that's the funny thing. The Mets don't have bias. They don't have Pete Crow
I
Armstrong.
think they're going
They're
to
a really
regret
solid
that one.
they're a really solid team right now, and I'm still waiting for them to go pure Mets and blow it when it matters.
Well, look
But I
at
will
the
say that Buck.
injuries to their rotation. It's not going to sustain to
Oh,
keep winning like
yeah.
that with those injuries.
Well, yeah, and I will say too that I like Buck Showalter, and even though he's never won the World Series, he is a really good manager,
Yeah.
and so he's the guy to kind of turn around a bad team, and look, he's done it before. So, yeah, the injuries are another thing. Every team has injuries, though, and it is what it is. But I've been having fun watching, Rizzo in New York. I've been having fun watching just any other game, really. But like I said, even if I don't watch the Cubs, I'm still gonna check the scores, see what they're doing. I'm following it. I'm on Twitter. Even if I don't want to be on Twitter, I'll be on Twitter doom
Touche.
scrolling, and I'll at least see the updates. But yeah, you're back on Twitter. How has that been for you? Are you having fun with it
Yeah,
again?
I am having fun with it again, and I got back in January. So yeah, I think the last time we talked, I wasn't back on yet. I
Or you were making that transition back?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, I'm back on having fun interacting. What I'm trying to do this time around is control it a little more, be on it less. If there's
yeah,
some times I just need to turn it off, just turn it off. When I'm at work in the office, I put my phone away. I don't look at it. It's a little more tempting because I work 2 days in the office and 3 days remote. So obviously when you're remote, it's a bit more tempting, but I just kind of try to put the phone to the side or put it in the pocket and just not turn it on when I'm at work. I'm working 7:30 to 3:30 Monday to Friday, so I try to resist going on at that time, and obviously not let it distract me from when I'm doing something really important, whether it's in the office or out of the office. And then there's some days even when I'm out with people or I'm hanging out where I'm like, nah, just don't go on Twitter, just don't take the phone out.
yeah,
So I'm just trying to be a lot more controlled about it and just not be on it as much and enjoy Twitter when I'm on, whether there's a game going on, whether there's something I want to talk about, like, hey, I saw this movie, or I watched this show, I want to talk about it, or hey, here's a fast food opinion I have that I want everybody to see. But, it's like the first time around, it got to a point where I was obsessively checking on it, like where 5 minutes in a day didn't go by where I wasn't pulling out my phone and looking at it.
yeah,
That just had to change. And I think being off for a year and a half kind of taught me that moderation is the way to go. And you know what? There might be a day where I say, you know what? For this week, I'm just gonna go on very little to not at all. Maybe that's just something I'm gonna have
yeah.
to do. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Set boundaries, set
No.
limits, and if you're on Twitter and you see stuff that's frustrating you, just get off for a while. Just leave.
Have you been watching the hockey playoffs?
Yeah, I have, and I was really pissed that the Avalanche blew it last night. So there was that, and I really did enjoy some of those first
Oilers,
round
Flames.
series. So that's been
Oh,
fun. Uh,
yeah.
Now, I don't know if you've probably seen it. I'm a big AHL Chicago Wolves fan, so I've been watching their playoff run so far. I was at game 2 of their latest series against the Milwaukee Admirals. They won that game 8-2, so it was an absolute blowout, and that was fun. So they're up in that series 2-1, a best of 5. So if they win that series, they go to the conference finals. So I've been enjoying the AHL playoffs as well. And the other thing about the NHL playoffs too is I was rooting for the Wild to at least get to the conference finals because the Blackhawks would have
The
gotten a
draft
first
pick,
round
yeah.
pick for Marc-Andre Fleury. And of course, they lose in the first round like they do every year. And the Maple Leafs
Sure.
lost in the first round like they do every year.
Oh, yeah.
There's at least been some stuff worth watching in these
Yep.
playoffs. Whereas like the NBA playoffs, they've all just been blowouts, and the Bulls were out early
Oh,
as expected.
yeah.
So
I can't e I used to watch the NBA. I used to really like watching the NBA. I mean, I used to be an NBA fan just like any other sport,
loved it as a
and
kid,
I think
watched it
it
all the time.
yeah, yeah, I think it stopped. I think it really I remember I used to like watching like the late night Friday night Laker games with Kobe on
Oh, that was
ESPN.
fun.
I just feel like I think once he retired is when it kind of stopped. I don't know. I don't know. Just all of a sudden I was like, I don't really care anymore. But I know what's going on with the Bulls because I listen to ESPN. I'm tapped into ESPN 1000 all the time. So I know what's up with the Bulls. And so, I knew about their issues with, against winning teams, the Bucks,
Philadelphia.
they were playing really well. Yeah, they were like like a horror. They were like one in whatever the record was horrible against like the top 3 teams in each conference. So I mean, I was definitely rooting for the Bulls, but I knew they weren't likely going to make a run this year
No,
the way things were going and injuries. They were just they had their issues. Now the Zach Levine thing. Do you think he's going to stay or go?
I feel like it's a coin flip right now. I feel like it's
Do you want him to
50-50.
stay?
I
Do you wish he would stay?
I do, but the thing is, I just don't want to lose him for nothing. You know,
You're right.
I don't want to lose him
Exactly.
for nothing.
Yeah.
If they pulled off a sign and trade for something that really made sense for the Bulls, okay.
Yeah.
If they
Sure.
re-sign
Yeah.
him and they keep him around, I'm good with that too. But you look at what the Bulls have, and there's so much they need. They need better defenders I mean, Lonzo Ball is a huge part of that, but Lonzo Ball's health is that's kind of a concern right now. But you need more defense. You need better shooting. You just need to shoot better because if you're going to be undersized, you need to shoot. You watch the Milwaukee series, Milwaukee just clogged the lanes to the basket and they just made the Bulls shoot, and the Bulls couldn't shoot except for game two, the
Yeah.
game they won.
DeRozan was on fire there for a while there, just kinda, like, carrying that
MVP
team. He was kind
candidate.
of yeah, dark horse, yeah, like a dark horse. I mean, you could say MVP candidate. I was gonna say dark horse because I knew he wasn't gonna win, but it was, like, a guy that should be mentioned for sure, but yeah, I feel you though, like, on not wanting to lose anybody or, you don't wanna lose people for nothing, just like with the Cubs last year, it was like, well, if you don't trade them, you're gonna lose them all for nothing, and
Exactly.
that's honestly working out in the long run
Yeah.
because these you like I said, what are you going to give Chris Bryant in free agency? Like, is he really worth 100 and whatever he got? Maybe he will be. I don't see it because he hasn't shown that he can be that player anymore. Like, he
Lot of
really,
nagging
everybody,
injuries.
everybody has just been like, oh, I wish we had Chris Bryant. I'm like, really? Why? Like, what has he done lately that makes you think, like, yeah, we need this guy right now? Like, sure, he might make the Cubs better right now, but you're also stuck in the past of 2016 and 17. He's not that guy.
And here's another important thing about that whole core thing. I loved the guy when he was in his prime. I did. He was fun. He was entertaining. But Baez has been pretty bad in Detroit. And I've liked watching Nico Horner and Christopher Morel.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just,
Morel. I mean, though that was a fun story. The Morel and who was that pitcher that had the 5 strikeouts and he was a former outfielder?
oh, Hughes.
Hughes.
Hughes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
Hughes.
cool. Same night.
I mean, stuff that was fun.
That
Yeah,
was
and the more
fun.
and he kind of and Morel obviously kind of overshadowed what Hughes had done, but it was still cool. Each
Impressive
one had like
nonetheless.
individual moments in the same game. Um, yeah, stuff like that. That stuff like that is fun, but not when it's 20-5 losses to the Reds, losing 3 out of 4 to the Cubs beat the Pirates. What was it, 21-4
21 to
or whatever, but
nothing
lost 21 to nothing, and they lost 3 out of 4 in that
at
series
home.
too. Yeah, I've been having fun with the hockey playoffs. I'm cool with Colorado winning. I'm really surprised with Edmonton because as of right now, they're up 3-1. They can close it out tonight. I thought Calgary was going to win that
Me
series. I
too.
thought they were kind of a dark, and they still might. Of course, this they might have lost, so they did lose. Then they screwed up, but then again, Edmonton has with Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Evander Kane, think what you want about him. He's been killing it on the ice. And then Mike Smith, a 40-year-old goalie who looked awful. I mean, the first game of the playoffs of the series, it's 2-0 before the first minute. It's 3-1 in like 5 minutes. They lose 9-6. He gets pulled early, and he has just been a different guy since game two when they even got down early.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, it's the thing about hockey is that there's always the team that looks dominant that just gets beat in the first round or second round, and then there's the team that also looks really good in the playoffs and goes far. It's like because you
yeah.
get multiple great teams in hockey in each conference, and it kind of feels like it's one goes far, one doesn't, and Calgary was never fancy, but they were just fundamentally sound and they did a lot of things right. And, sometimes that works and sometimes the superstars just overpower you. And right now, the superstars are just overpowering them.
And I didn't really give Edmonton much credit just for that reason alone. In fact, I had LA beating them just because I was like, Edmonton hasn't proven it yet, but they finally are playing up to, I guess you could say, their potential. I mean, guys like obviously Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, all these guys that they have, the names, they're finally playing well. Obviously, I'm not surprised Tampa Bay swept Florida. Florida's like it's like one of the few times in sports when you can look at the best regular season team and be like, I don't trust them in the playoffs because Florida had never proven that they could be.
Right.
This group hasn't proven anything in the playoffs, and I just like Tampa Bay too much. I had them winning it all before this thing started. Um, Tampa Bay is revved up, they're ready to go. They swept Florida. I mean, I thought maybe 5 or 6, but I think in the middle of game one, I thought if they swept them, I wouldn't be surprised, and that's what happened. And then Rangers and Hurricanes. Someone's gonna be up 3-2 after tonight. I I kind of like the Rangers in that series again. They went down 2-0, but what do you think about the Rangers and Hurricanes?
Yeah, I because I'm a Chicago Wolves fan and they're the new affiliate of the Wolves, I kind of can't help but root for the Hurricanes. Um,
Oh, they are the affiliate?
yeah, this
Interesting.
year it was either this year or last year. It's hard to count last year because the AHL didn't even have playoffs last year. It was kind of dumb, but anyway, so I kind of have a soft spot for the Hurricanes. I wouldn't mind them winning it. But with the New York Rangers, they have Artemi Panarin, so like I can't help but root for Artemi Panarin. But it would
Yeah.
be interesting to see at least one original six team make the Eastern Conference Finals. Because like the last few years, the only original six team that's really gone far outside the one time Montreal made it to the finals is like it's usually
Last year.
like Boston. They're the ones that have been going
Yeah.
far. Obviously, the Hawks had
Yeah.
their run, but that was back in 2015. We've seen Boston make a few runs, and then you saw the one run with Montreal. But the Maple Leafs haven't won a postseason series in like 20 years. Detroit hasn't won a postseason series since 2013. The Rangers, they made the one run in 2014, but you knew that the Kings were going to kill them. That's what hurts about the Hawks losing in seven to them in 14, because if the Hawks would have won that game, that was a three-peat right there. Who was ever winning that series was winning the Stanley Cup, because, the Rangers went on a nice run, but you knew they weren't going to win it all. So, you know, to this day, right now, the last original six team to win a championship was the Blackhawks, and that was in
Yeah.
2015.
I think it'd be funny if it was a Gretzky matchup of Edmonton, New York. I don't know. I don't think Edmonton's gonna get there. I think it's probably gonna be Colorado and Tampa. I think Tampa Bay is going to the Stanley Cup final regardless. I mean, sure, Carolina and New York might beat them, but I think Tampa Bay is too good.
Yeah,
They're
I
gonna be
agree.
rested now, which might hurt them, but they're gonna be rested. I got to say too, my good friend, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but friend of the pod, Dan Schulman. We were talking last, I think it was back in April, and I was like, at the time, playoffs were about to start, and I was like, well, the Leafs might finally get one of these, but obviously we know what happened there.
Yep, yep. They do it
So
every year, man. Every year.
I don't know. He said the same thing. He was like, they might not get out of the first round. They might win the cup. We knew. I think at that point we knew they were probably going to play Tampa Bay, so we knew the odds were good. But they had a 3-2 lead in that series. They blew it. So
Right, and you
um,
had game 7 at home.
yeah, I wasn't surprised. I was surprised that Tampa Bay got destroyed in Game 1 the way they did. They did like 5-0, I think it was.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I was like, well, it's Tampa. They can definitely bounce back. And then I thought Washington might knock out Florida. I was actually like, they're going to knock out Florida because Florida looked bad, but they
It
got
looked good
through. But they
early on
just
for Washington, and then it kind of fell apart.
yeah, yeah. But before we let you go, you hung out with Mike. Is it
Hmm.
Prasnowski?
Hmm.
Mike, I'm butchering your name as you can see. You hung out with Big
The
Mike or
Prez
Mike
man.
met Praz. Yeah. So how was that? Have you guys hadn't met before?
Yeah, so we obviously knew each other a long time uh on Twitter, and we finally got to hang out in person yesterday. We went to Elmer's Brewery, we watched the Cubs game, we
Nice.
enjoyed some good food, a few brews. It was a lot of fun, just a good chill time. We were just talking about our old sports memories, and it was just awesome to like meet another Chicago sports fan that shares the same pain as you. We shared, the stories of the goods and the bads from the Cubs, the Bears, the Hawks, the Bulls, and all that stuff. So it was a good time. And he lives pretty close to me, actually. So we'll definitely be hanging out more as time goes on.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah. I feel like me and you are friends. We've never met, but I just feel like we have that dynamic because we talk and do this all the time. So
Geography makes
it
it a little
feels
harder
like
for us to get together.
yeah. Yeah, like, I could say to someone else, I'd be like, "Yeah, my friend," and I'm like, "Well, I've never actually met him, but we're friends technically because of the Twitter dynamic. It
Hmm.
makes it interesting." But, yeah, that's cool that you guys got to meet
It was
up.
awesome.
You
Yeah,
said
we
you're
had fun.
yeah. Yeah, so, that's cool, and that's the good stuff with social media is when you can actually meet people and hang out and talk and stuff like that.
And it was also fun too to we kind of, we talked about what we were up to. I was telling him about my job. He was telling me about his job. And we were kind of sharing some stories about what was going on during the week, during the day. And, whenever you meet new people and you get to know them and you kind of share stories, whether it's sports or not, it's really fun to do because I knew Mike, like I said, like I knew Mike for a while on Twitter, but now I'm like I can associate a actual in-person face, that makes
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
that makes it even better.
Was he what you figured, or were you surprised by anything?
No, I wasn't surprised. He was exactly
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
expected. All good, all good.
Well, that's good. And it's funny because for some reason, until you posted that picture with Eddie Belfour, I was like, "Wait, is that Pat? Like, it looks like him. It's you posted it." I guess I was like, that's the first time I guess I've seen like a full body picture because I was like, "How tall are you? Like, you're taller than I ever would have for some reason assumed."
Yeah, Ed
I was like,
Belfour
"Dude,
isn't tall, so I probably looked taller than
right."
I am.
Well, but you're still taller than I am, I found out. You're 5'11",
Yep,
and I'm not 5'11", so that's tall to me anyway.
fair enough.
But I thought interesting. But anyway, yeah, it was good to chat with you, and we'll definitely do it again soon.
Always good, man. Thanks for having me.